Okay. And
Make sure you take 4 layered breaths on top of each other that are harsh.
okay.
Breathe in as much as you can in every breath, but make it fast and short.
Okay. Fast and short. And how often would you say to stop and do this?
Well, you can do it whenever you like, but the best time is when you're doing, well, it's called breath work, energetically charging yourself in different ways. If you're about to do some meditation, you may want to, before you meditate, you might want to do this exercise. You may want to do this before you go to bed.
Okay.
You may want to do this before you do some strenuous exercises or right before you're about to do a difficult test, a written test, or any sort of test.
Okay.
Right before you're about to fight someone in the streets, who knows?
Yes.
So it's good for your body to have full oxygenation for periods of time.
Okay. Okay. So putting this in a daily routine would be beneficial.
It would be, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. That concludes my questions.
You're welcome. And we'll say this sometimes you breathe in particles like dust, pollutions. There's many things that a human can breathe in, sawdust, perhaps, pollen, spores from fungus, bacteria and virus, all of these things. And your lungs are powerful. They will wrap these toxins up with particles of phlegm, with white blood cells, and many fun things, let's just say. When you breathe deeply, it forces the blood to rush into your lungs and it causes your blood to take away all these toxins away from these valuable spaces, this valuable, let's call it residential area. What is another term for that? It's real estate.
Mhm.
So breathe deeply and you'll feel better.
Okay.
And that way
Thank you
your
very
body
much.
can flush out the toxins.
Yes. Thank you, Taya.
You're welcome.
Kurt, and then myself, the moderator.
Kurt,
Greetings, Thea.
greetings.
I was, I was trying to understand, trying to put together our abilities to exist in this third dimension, and then also through telepathy or meditation, grow in other aspects. And what I find is it's a big struggle between the two. Uh,
Which
and
two are you
so,
contrasting?
well,
Telepathy and meditation, or meditation and regular life, or regular life and
yes,
telepathy?
regular life. So the example I had, this happened to me about probably a month ago. I had issues with my semicircular canals and I was disoriented. And I realized is that in addition to sight, sound, smell, and touch, that we have other sensors that affect us in this third dimension. And I found that it was extremely hard to remain stable in this dimension. It
Mm.
created a disconnect between my head and my stomach, and but I could meditate at the drop of a hat. I could sleep and just have fantastic dreams. But when I woke up and opened my eyes and I had this disorientation, anyway, that was just my experience. But that led me to believe that there's a balance that we have to draw as we learn, because I have to live. I was fighting to get back in this three-dimensional world, feeling like I had things I had to do.
Mm.
And so, how do we choose that balance? Because it is so awesome sometimes to meditate, and coming back is kind of difficult sometimes.
Yes, your
And
question. We'd like to give you some information, but we
okay,
want you to re-ask the question when we're done.
okay,
When you had this condition of the ear, which caused imbalance or perhaps vertigo and other instability, your brain immediately began to rewire itself. So, this rewiring can create fogginess or perhaps a bit of confusion, or can cause you to be out of phase with your normal reality because your brain is literally changing to adjust to your tubes not being uh, let's say the fluid not being in the right location of your ear, for example. So this is one part of this condition, your brain adjusting and adapting. Just like if you have a dislocated arm, the muscles will immediately begin to reinforce the weakest parts of your disjointedness so that it can take the burden that the bones once held. But could you ask your question again? We apologize.
Okay. So I realize that as our body tries to, like you talked about, rewire itself to accommodate issues, the problem I had was that it made it easier to meditate. It wasn't painful. It was very easy to meditate. So my question was, how do we balance this urge to want to stay in a higher state of consciousness with our need to return and remain in the third dimension? I mean, I'm trying to think of factors and how do we be happy in both aspects of that? Because we should be happy in this three-dimensional life, understanding as much as we can and ready to move on.
Yes.
But we can't hate it. You have to want to come back and learn from it. So
yes.
What are the factors? So what do we look at? That's my question. So
good question. Sometimes uncomfortability can keep you from wanting to be in your body. That can cause whether it's physical pain or traumatic pain or emotional pain of different sorts, nervous pain from your nervous system, physical pain, you'd call it. There's many different sorts of things that are typically determined as pain causers that causes you to want to escape from reality. Oftentimes, escapes come in many forms. Meditation is a form of escape. Sleep is a form of escape, but so is drugs and alcohol and many other things as well. Now, when it came to it's easy to meditate, it's easy to sleep, that's because your body gets a chance to relax, rewire, heal itself. That's what your body was promoted to do because it was in an unhealed state. But when you had to come back to your conscious life, well, not all lives are clouds and rainbow. What is the term? Sunshine and rainbows. But it's because your body still wanted to heal, most likely. It still wanted to remain in bed and process and all of the things that it needed to process in order to heal properly. So that's typically why.
okay, I guess maybe I thought about answering my question. It's up to ourselves probably to determine what our priorities are and what our intent is as to how do we balance between the two states and try and get the most out of both. So, okay,
Yes.
thank you very much.
We would recommend that each person builds up their toolbox so that you have skills, you have models that are successful that will lead you to the next plateau of success in your life, whether that be financial success or whether that be dietary success, whether that be maintaining your space success or maintaining your relationships or family life or love life. These are all different categories of things that you should be successful in your life. And perhaps they should all be written down and put into one piece of paper so you can all examine them individually. But if you have only one out of, let's say, 7 of these things that we just mentioned that is successful and the rest are failures, then you might not want to be in this game anymore. You might think that this game sucks. So that's typically what happens. So you'll have to find success in the other, let's say, 6 of these 7, even we just made up that number, but of these models. So you'll want to find success in this game, how to be successful in these areas of your life.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll let someone else ask a question.
And we just want to add, and the more of these things that you have that are successful, then the happier you'll be in 3D. Very good.
Thank you. Thank you, Theo.
Greetings there.
Nick.
I have a question about turning iron to gold.
Yes.
So does the proximity of the iron and the gold when heated to the quantum state matter?
Everything matters in alchemy. There's no
Yeah.
detail that is too small. So it is a science.
Yeah. And will the material that is in greater quantity superimpose itself on the material that's in lesser quantity when heated to the quantum state?
Not necessarily, because if you have a material that is radioactive, it has a very large field of influence. Not all metals are radioactive, but some are, and those will create larger fields. So that needs to be compensated for.
Okay. And then does heating a metal to its quantum state for a longer period of time increase the size of the field? Does it keep growing?
No, it won't continue to grow, but there's a critical there's a critical words. Heating it is radiation. So the heat is radiation. As that radiation reaches its critical temperature, the state to which it switches from linear to quantum, that material, then that's when the field begins to be produced as particles of that iron or lead or whatever you're working with transmits its frequency into the quantum frequency. In the beginning, there's only a few particles. That means the field is only very tiny. But once the full bar reaches its quantum state, then that's going to reach the maximum potential of the field. It won't grow beyond that field size because if you continue to heat it, then it will begin to denature. And once it changes state, which means liquefy in this circumstance, then you'll lose the field.
Ah, so you don't want it to liquefy.
That's correct.
Um, yes, but the temperature that most of these are heated to get to their quantum state will not liquefy, I assume. Like
The temperature of the
like iron doesn't liquefy at 150 Celsius or whatever it is.
well, that's correct.
So then would you suggest getting them to the quantum state separately and then moving them within proximity of each other?
Yes. You'll need to take lead and science the shit out of lead. You'll need to know all the qualities, the parameters, how large is the field of a 100-gram bar of iron, for example, and you'll need to continue to use the same sample size for every science test that you do on it as well.
How can we measure the field?
That you'll need technologies for. You may be able to feel it psychically, though, but don't burn yourself.
How big would the field be, do you reckon? Like a meter from 100 grams?
100 grams, not a meter. A few inches, perhaps.
Oh,
5 to 6 inches, perhaps.
okay. And my other question is,